5 things Arnold Schwarzenegger did great in his speech that broke the internet, and 5 things to improve on. Coming right up in this episode on speech analysis. Hi, I'm Yang Xu. I'm the speaker coach here at Speaking Volumes. Here is another episode on speech analysis. And here I evaluate the speaking skills and the presentation skills of amazing speakers and sometimes not so amazing speakers. And you do want to get better at speaking, don't you? Subscribe here. We've got videos coming out every Wednesday and Friday. So today we have Arnold Schwarzenegger. Most of you might know him. Bodybuilder, actor, and the Governator. I'll be analyzing his inspirational speech where he presents at the Jürgen Holler conference. Jürgen Holler's European, like Tony Robbins speaker. And he's there to speak about success principles. Now, I'll only be analyzing his presentation that goes for half an hour, where he talks about 3 principles. I won't be analyzing his interview with Jürgen, which happens straight afterward. Now, the speech is supposed to inspire people, help them become more successful, motivate people. And I like to preface also to say that this is a podium speech. It's a lot harder to use a lot of the stagecraft techniques that I usually teach in my workshops and coaching because you are standing in one place. So 5 things that Arnold does really well in his presentation. First thing is his personal stories. It's coming from his own life. They're very concrete. They're irrefutable things where he talks about him reading that magazine from Reg Parker. This is a blueprint for my life.
I read that and I said to myself, wow, this is the blueprint for my life. This is exactly what I want to do. I want to become a bodybuilding champion just like Reg Park.
All the principles that he talks about, they're principles that he has gone through, and he's proving each point with a personal story, multiple personal stories. The epitome of a rags to riches story, showing how discipline, hard work, and having the vision, saying no to the naysayers, can help you get to where you want to be. Stories like he was working out 5 to 6 hours a day in addition to working in construction to be able to afford his supplements. And he has great punchlines as well in his stories. You know, he kept getting no's, and then punchline, I didn't give a shit.
But you know something? I didn't give a shit. I didn't. Because I believed that I can be a leading man.
I believed that I can be a leading man. He's very graphic in his stories as well. When he was talking about the scene where he had bloodied elbows and knees.
Well, it didn't matter if I had to do another 50 takes or 100 takes. No matter how much I bleed on my elbows or my knees, I saw that vision of the perfect scene, and it was an important scene, and I would do it over and over again until we got it.
He was so excited to get that scene done. All these personal stories are really powerful because he's gone from a nobody to a bodybuilding champion, Mr. Olympia, A-list celebrity, and the Governator. Second thing he does well is humor. He adds a lot of humor in his story. When he talks about, if I didn't follow my vision, I would still be yodeling in Austria.
My father wanted me to become a police officer like he was. My mother wanted me just to stay there and marry a girl with the name of Heidi, hopefully, and have a bunch of kids and run around like the Van Trapp family in The Sound of Music.
Well, audience member, you need to sleep faster. If you sleep 8 hours a day, you should be doing 6 hours.
So it drives me nuts because when people say we don't have the time, we have 24 hours a day. We sleep 6 hours a day, so that gives you still 18 hours. Now, there's someone shaking their head out here in front. They say probably, I don't sleep 6 hours, I sleep 8 hours, right? Or just sleep faster.
When you keep getting no's, get no after no and after no, and the next person that says that, you don't have to say it out loud. Just have to say it in your mind, fuck you, asshole. I can do this.
So when someone says, no, this is a stupid idea, you in your mind, you don't have to say it, but in your mind just say to yourself, fuck you, you're an asshole. What do you know?
It's funny, and at the same time, the audience is really engaged with that. They're into it. because they can see themselves in that situation as well. And he also adds a bit of self-deprecating humor where he says, you know, sometimes when people were trying to pronounce his name, they kept getting Swatzer, nigger, something or other, and they couldn't pronounce his name. Plus your name, no one can pronounce it. People, you think you're like a Nazi or something. We don't have lead men with your accent. Third thing he does well is a simple message and simple framework. You know, he keeps it very simple. First lesson, boom. Second lesson, boom. Third lesson, boom. First lesson, it's 14 minutes long. Second lesson, 10 minutes long. Third lesson, 6 minutes long. The lessons are simple, it's relatable. The first lesson, have a vision. Second lesson, don't listen to the naysayers. Third lesson, work hard, there is no magic pill. It's relatable. He's backing it up with his own life examples. It's just irrefutable. And many times he repeats the lessons to reinforce it. For the second lesson, he keeps saying, you cannot listen to the naysayers. Cannot listen to the naysayers. And it's funny when he also says, I didn't listen to those losers. He's garnering support from the audience. Fourth thing he does well is some audience interaction tools. One that is a storytelling one, and the technique is when you say imagine. But more specifically, if you say, can you imagine? So it's getting people to come into your story and to live out your story from your perspective. So when you say, can you imagine? Tell your story and you say, can you imagine? It's getting people to empathize with you and to engage with you. So a few times in his speech, Arnold says, imagine, imagine. It could be more powerful if he says, can you imagine? Which he did say once. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine getting all those no's in show business?
Imagine. You go from studio executive to studio executive, from agent to agent, from manager to manager, and they all said exactly the same thing. Now that's very encouraging, isn't it?
Fifth thing he does well is his call to adventure and growth. There's an appeal to deeper purpose and meaning when he says 74% of people hate their jobs in America.
74% hate their job in America. Now there is not much different when you come to Europe. The majority of people don't like what they're doing.
He's really trying to get you to see what would life be like if you did work you loved.
Do you know how great it felt that I knew where I was going? Imagine the majority of people don't know where they're going. I knew where I was going, that I'm going to become this bodybuilding champion just like him.
Because if you're working and you hated it, that's work. But if you enjoyed it, you're enjoying it. So having a goal, having a vision, following your passion, you're really being put into a situation where you're forced to look at your life. When he talks about time, you've got 18 hours in a day, 6 hours sleeping. The rest of the time, working, driving to work, and then you've got 6 hours left. What are you doing with that 6 hours? Spread that out over a whole year. Let's say you do 1 hour, you got 1 hour spare. 365 hours. What are you gonna do with that time?
Imagine you read 1 hour a day about history. How much you will learn after 365 hours in 1 year. Think about if you study about the history of musicians, of composers, how much you would know. Imagine if you would work on a business, on some business that you want to develop every day for an hour. Imagine how further along you will go.
And before I continue, I just want to assess his speaker archetype. So Arnold is 35% executive, 15% motivator, 35% commander, and 15% rock star. By executive, I mean someone who just gives information, like a professional, you know, talking about information, statistics, and just teaching. Like a normal person teaching, that would be like an exec. A motivator is like Tony Robbins. He's telling you, what could you do differently? What could you do better? So motivate. Commander is being direct. It's commanding, authoritative, and rock star is he's been an actor. So he's got some of that rock star presence, like, I don't give a shit, I'm awesome, I'm a star. He's got some of that in his speech as well. You know, he's got a lot of F words and all that sort of stuff. 5 improvements that Arnold could make in his presentation. First one is contrast. He could use way more contrast in the way he speaks. He's the Terminator, the Governator. So the way he speaks, he speaks like a robot, right? So if only he could increase his range. He is also in his early 70s, so I'm not gonna blame him for that. What if you could go high and whisper? Increasing the range of how you speak can dramatically increase the engagement of the audience. Like, let's just say when I got to the gym, I couldn't wait to do more bench presses. For example, he's trying to get an agent to be a lead actor. People kept saying, no, 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 no. And he kept going and I kept going and changing it up in your voice, is really gonna create some dynamism and engagement. Second thing he could improve on is using his hands more when he's making each point. First one is have a vision. 2, don't listen to the naysayers. He's really staying within a certain area, and that could be just the logistics of the event. You know, maybe he couldn't move away from the podium because of video recording purposes. But I would suggest that if he had the freedom to, he could move a lot more with his hands, you know, using full body communication, putting his hands straight up, saying first one is this. It's gonna be more impactful. Third thing he could improve on is full body communication with the gestures. So for example, with vision, like he could say vision. So using your hands to create a movement that anchors what you're saying.
You see, if you don't have a vision of where you go, and if you don't have a goal where you go, you drift around and you never end up anywhere.
Anchor in what you're saying so that people remember what you're saying more. Otherwise, all you're doing is just talking, just gets boring afterwards. So having gestures to emphasize certain points. Number 4, be way more dynamic in his storytelling. So if he's talking about the story when he's bleeding on the elbow, bleeding on the knees, he could be getting on the floor. Of course, he'll need a mic for that. It might just be the logistics of the event where he doesn't have the mic on his face. If he did, he could get on the floor and just like pretend he was there and demonstrating that. It'd be so much more powerful and engaging to watch. Wouldn't you agree? I also understand that he's in his early 70s. So also if he's talking to the agents, he could be on this side of the podium talking as if he was the agents, and then he would be on this side of the podium talking as if he was him. So he could have a conversation within the confines of the podium. Fifth thing he could improve on is use power postures. Now power postures are postures that are archetypical postures. When you do them, it kind of like, they anchor certain meanings. So one posture would be the computer. So the computer is when you're providing statistics and you're like that.
74% hate their job in America.
Did you know that 74% of Americans dislike their job? It just makes you smile. Of course, you could say that without doing that posture, but it's gonna be so much more powerful when you do that. Also, the blamer posture, where he says to the audience, you gotta have a purpose in life, and he's doing this. What is this, like an Italian? So he could be doing the blamer posture, where he's going boom, boom, boom. You need a purpose in life. You gotta have a purpose in life. So overall, that speech was speaking volumes. He achieved his purpose of inspiring the audience to be more successful. He's using his personal life with irrefutable examples of his successes and things that he has personally done. I would also say that his influence and the audience reaction is partly due to his reputation and his success as an actor, bodybuilder, politician. But in terms of speaking skills, there's a bit of room for improvement. So I would grade Arnold 8 out of 10 on this speech. So what did you think about this analysis? Did you see the same things? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be back. Be sure to check out our other speech analysis videos coming right up. We've got Jim Carrey and even Hitler. See you in the next video.